talking a little bit now about challenges students face whenever they learn to type kana. This can definitely be something challenging whenever they're switching from handwriting into typing. And this was actually a topic we discussed a little bit more in detail last year during our Russian webinar. Some teachers didn't feel it was as important to teach handwriting, while others did. So, would absolutely love to hear your thoughts. Just hearing about your thoughts on how to help students overcome some of the challenges that they face whenever they learn to type. And then, if we could please have Nozaki Sensei, if you could share with us your thoughts.
Yeah, so some challenge student may type using kana. So this is when the sound system is important to type. So yeah, as student learn, it's a combination of consonant and vowel, so that's applied to this typing. But there's some cases that doesn't work well for the student. Is like when the character and the sound doesn't match, like most notorious one is particles like particle Y and O. So after they continue learning, at some point they start typing their assignment, and so that case some student type watashi wa like the last wa or konnichiwa or uh, ケーキを食べました is like different like normal or type. And but if you use like some word or other documents, like sometimes it's auto-corrected. So some students are saved by those auto-correction, but some assignment still shows the wrong kana. And also another tricky point is like typing. So yeah, our textbook has a nice like rules of Japanese typing. So yeah, so if they just follow those rules, they won't make those mistakes. But still, sometimes they forget and just type as they hear or type as they think, and so konnichiwa like become a konnichiwa like different typing, wrong typing. And another tricky point that I hear from the student as a question, like typing small tsu. So it's also written in typing rules, but they have to type double T and also long vowel. So when I explain about those long vowel, it's like I often use Roman letters, so like Ohayo. So it's like the last two sounds are O, so two sound lengths. But once they have to write or type, some students write O like as it sounds. So in that case, I have to mention like Ohayo. Somehow it sounds O, but you have to write so it applies to the typing as well. So yeah, so those typing. Sometimes that sound like typing according to the sound works, but sometimes not. And also, yeah, so those sound matching, yeah. So when the case when the sound matching doesn't work, but before that, before typing, I think they have to know the correct spelling, like yeah, actually, I looked through some student typing the other days, and like they just type or write as they hear, like 推薦中 or すめません or 看板は and so on. So, but also those speaking practice and listening practice was also important before typing as well. And lastly, but not least, the difficult part for the student is the English loan words. So like program. So many students also complain, yeah, like teacher, you think it's easier for us to write or type those long ones, but actually it's very difficult because the pronunciation of English and Japanese are different. So like some students complain that don't expect us to write like answer those English loan words correctly in Japanese. So yeah, so those English loan words also have to be taught in Japanese, how they have to write in Japanese those English loan words. Yeah, that's all.
I think you did a great job summarizing some of the major pain points of teaching typing to native English speakers, Nozaki sensei. Thank you for that. Kobuke sensei, let's go to you next. Again, the question is about teaching typing. What are some of the challenges your students face whenever they are learning to type using kana?
Similar to what Nozaki sensei just mentioned, the characters, for example, let me share again, sorry. Like knowing when to type in hiragana or katakana. Some students just continue on typing hiragana for all the katakana words, the words that should be in katakana. So practice typing activities like this, like a H5P flashcard, where students can look, you can even put the Japanese as a picture, not a word, not as a typed one, but I use the Romaji, Tokyo Disneyland, Tokyo, the U of To, and Kyo, the U is always missing. And in Disneyland, the De and the small E. And anime. 私はよくアニメを見ます。They love to write this, but then they forget anime should be typed in katakana. And also when they're typing in kanji, this one doesn't really have kanji, but the spelling, if the vocabulary spelling is incorrect, the kanji will not appear. So having students understand that correct spelling is important for you to use the correct kanji is also really key. So the double N, the small little letters, using the X to put in the small little letters. Yeah, I think those are the most common challenges of students. And probably knowing how to type, knowing how to read and type is the first big challenge that students need to overcome in order to be successful throughout the semester. So having as much support that we can provide, I think is useful.
That is definitely important to make sure that we are supporting our students, especially in the online world, right? For beginner students, I find that if they are having technical issues and trouble, sometimes they just decide they want to quit. Maybe they even look at dropping the class, but I find if I'm able to get in and work with them, we can usually resolve those issues. Thank you for that. Much appreciated, Kobuke sensei. Saito sensei, let's go to you. Again, this is related to challenges facing our students whenever they are learning to type using kana. How do you help them overcome them?
Okay, oh my God, I want to say, like, the one thing that the Japanese Romaji system, like, they should, like, do something about it. Like, so many, like, different Romaji, and, like, each textbook has the different rules, like, defining, like, in our textbook, like, we use this way, that way. And so I teach, it's depend on the teacher too. Like some teachers like use like they are like the American teachers, like they learned they are like the Japanese with like similar to the like phonics systems, like the American elementary students start. And so it's the pronunciation rules are different. And if the student start to use rarirurero, and they teach from the Romaji, and like I have to correct them so many times, like it's not rarirurero, it's like it's between L and D, and like your tongue should be somewhere around here, like I have to explain so many things because of this, like the Romaji system that we introduce, and that affect like that and I used to call it like training wheels. So like you have to get rid of the like Romaji, like as soon as possible, say bye-bye to that, like the Romaji. But like the online, like Romaji is crucial because of the typing. But for some of the textbook has like 学生 instead of SEI, like they put SEE. So that's why student type incorrectly. Or like my college hunter, like even though I teach them like, the English spelling doesn't always like, the same as the Romaji result, the typing result, but I see like funta instead of hunter. So like I have to give them all those like small details, and like Kobuke sensei say Tokyo, and like Saito, like my last name even, like, they always say Saito sensei. Like they can call me Saito sensei, but like, in terms of the email, text message, like they always put Saito sensei. I get tired of correcting them every time. So like I just like accept. Yeah. So like the one like I wanna see is that the Romaji system is not always connect with what they pronounce. That's one thing. And Romaji system is important for the typing. Then like I start to teach them like the sounds Romaji. It doesn't always change like much. Like some of the students start to say like every time you say desu or masu, like like your SU sound like things like I don't see like you put you on at the end. So like I have to explain that all those rules again. So that's okay. And for the typing, and I was like one thing, it's the technology things, but like even the novice speakers, and they start to type Japanese, and then like the MacBook or whatever the computer they are using, it's all changed to the kanji, unless like you have to change back to like just typing like only hiragana something. So like as a result, after they type, whoa, we don't even know like this kanji. So that's gonna happen. And also the katakana autocorrect. I'm feeling like half of me like always struggling like teaching how to like it's the very important skill in real life. Like once they get into the the company, or like going to the real world, they have to type in Japanese or English like with using those technologies. So I make sure that everybody does the homework if I assign them like something typing in Japanese, and I have to make sure that like they know how to retype those Japanese sentences. But recently, I start to figure it's not only the typing, but I have 4 children. My oldest and youngest has like 10 years apart. And my oldest is Gen Z and youngest is Gen Alpha. So like how they address to the computer or like the cell phone is different. That's my observation. My daughter, oldest, she always start to type or like with the smartphone. But my youngest, like he always goes, "Hey Siri," and he's gonna try to find out. So like I don't know about that. The Romaji typing is a thing in the future. Like I read the article that 2050, like there will be no smartphone anymore in the world, and there's no like and nobody had smartphone like 2050 at that time. So what we are supposed to teach them. So I always like with using teaching online and like struggled like the technology, and like I always see little bit like the forward and a few years ahead, and what's gonna happen next, next. So that's something I also enjoy myself teaching. But like back to the topic, I think that typing kana, hiragana, katakana is still important, and I teach together with like how to write correctly, accurately. But Also, like they have to know how to type Japanese correctly as well. I think it's the still important basic skill for the real world. Thank you.
That's an important point. We really have to, as educators, think about how are we preparing our students to enter that 21st century workplace. And as you said, it might be very, very different. You even touched upon the generational differences. So my sister's children are all the Gen Z and mine are all Gen Alpha. And it's interesting to watch, as you said, comparing the two, how they interact with technology. And as Gen Alpha is starting to transition into the classroom, we might find ourselves needing to shift our approaches to be a little bit more accommodating to them. Thank you for that. Excellent answer. Great stuff to think about. Love Sensei, if you could also chime in on the topic related to the challenges our students face whenever they're learning to type using kana and how you overcome them, please.
Yeah, thanks. Just second all the comments that I've made before. There's some tricky things about typing, right? Like you have to do N twice to get the N character. WO to get particle O, like all of those kinds of things, right? We go over all of those with our students, make sure that they're doing them. Couple things I'll also mention there. One issue, that we get in with our students is that the majority of the Japanese they're exposed to in the textbook is typed Japanese. But then when we get them writing characters by hand, they start writing some of these characters that they should be doing in a handwritten style in the typed style, right? Like tsumetai, for example, that looks pretty different, whether it's typed or whether it's written by hand. So, we just take some time for each of those to make sure that they're aware of what the differences are, how different they look, make sure they're doing it correctly. I also I think with upper level students, I'll usually take a minute or two to just go over with them, if they're dealing with a Microsoft Word document, how to turn that into vertical writing if they want to do vertical writing and type that up, and how to add furigana. I don't think they'll be in that situation very often where they need to add furigana to their own document. But just go over it like this is how you do it if you're ever in that situation where you need to do it. You also mentioned just this issue of, do you teach them handwriting? Do you not teach them handwriting? That maybe came up in one of the other panels, but the way we approach that, like clearly, I think there's a place for handwriting. I think, if you look at the Japanese educational system, there is a huge focus on handwriting. There is hours and hours spent on helping people learn this. And so I think it's a skill that is, really valued in the society. And we tell our students that, right? This is one of the reasons why you need to do this. Even though, the computer is ubiquitous and a lot of, written communication is going to be typed now. But we also, we do both, right? Handwritten assignments and typed assignments. But then at our third year level, we have a test. It's a handwriting test and it's pass fail. Students have to be able to write a sentence with good enough handwriting to pass this test. And if their handwriting doesn't look good enough, then they fail the test. Now they can take this test repeatedly throughout this semester until they pass. But if they don't pass, that's how it works. It's pass fail, right? So this is kind of like this gatekeeping stage at which, they have to demonstrate that when they're in that situation where they need to write something by hand, that they can do it at a high enough level. And then basically once we've done that, then from then on, it's basically we're dealing with typed assignments, we're confident that our students, when they're in that situation can write well by hand, then, from then on, we're kind of working with the typed language and they do typed writing assignments. And that's kind of the focus there. So that's kind of how we address that. Yeah, so that's for me.
It's interesting, the idea of a little mini exam that they have to pass it in order to move up to the next part. Now, how do you deal with remediation? Do you find that a lot of students need remediation, or do you find that generally most of them pass the first time, no problem?
Very few of them pass the first time, no problem. So, there's usually a bit. I think students know that this is coming up, right? I mean, they hear things from upper level students. We let them know about this. So I think it provides a bit of motivation for the lower levels. When we're teaching handwriting and we're giving them feedback on their handwriting to actually like try to have good handwriting because they know that this test is going to come up and this is like a big test. It's as big as a midterm or a final exam, and they've got to pass this. So I think there's a bit of motivation that comes in with that. But if they do the exam and they don't pass it, then they get feedback. This is like what you need to do to pass the exam. These are the mistakes that you made. And it's a single sentence that they have to write. It's a different sentence every time they retake the exam. So it's kind of it's how we do it with tests, right? We don't test on absolutely everything that we've taught them and that we want them to know. We take a sample, right, of what they can do. And so it's going to be a little bit different every time what we're asking them to do, but we'll go through the parts that they struggled with and tell them what they can do to be better. And interestingly, oftentimes it's things like, hiragana characters that they're, get to the third level and they're still not quite forming the way that they should be, that are throwing them off with this. But yeah.
That's interesting. And personally, our department just went through a major kind of overhaul of our courses to make them align with the North Carolina standards. And there was sort of a debate and a question coming up of, just how much writing do we really want our students to do? Because on one hand, there's a great deal of value in learning how to write the language and how to write neatly and make everything presentable. But on the other hand, um, there's only so much time we have with the students. I think that theme keeps coming up that we only have so much time with our students. So we have to kind of balance. Do we want to spend a lot of time focused on writing, or do we want to move on, maybe use a little bit more typing and move on to other topics? So it's a lot to think about. I just wanted to throw this out there. This is one of the challenges that I have a lot with students. So I teach in the K-12 environment. I absolutely love what I do, and we get some of the best students at NCVPS and also my other school, IDLA. We get fantastic students, but it's not unusual where I would say, out of a group of maybe 25 students, I have 4 or 5 that really struggle with setting up typing in hiragana, katakana on their device, no matter what it might be. It can be for a laundry list of reasons. It could be that they're just not following it, that maybe something's gone wrong with the computer. It could just be a lot of different things. I also have issues where school districts, and this is just me personally, will have things like Japanese IME blocked. So it's really challenging. How do we overcome that? Now, I'm not happy about the compromise that I've had to come to with a handful of students, but I've had to resort to allowing them to use the tool, the Lexi Logos tool, where they're kind of punching in the characters. They're not really typing. But because the school district maybe has really strict protocol about what they will and will not allow on their machines, sometimes I've had to resort to that. Now, I'm happy to say that that hasn't been recent. I think it's been several years now where I've been in a situation where the district just will not compromise and we have to use something like Lexi Logos to bridge that gap. But it's common for me to run into issues like that where students weeks in are saying, hey, I'm still having trouble getting this to work. I can bring up the input, but it's not giving me the results. So I've had to become quite the troubleshooter, just to be honest, trying to figure out technically what's going on here. And I've learned a lot about different systems as well, just how to get everything working in on the Chromebooks, Windows, as well as Mac. And I have certainly bookmarked a lot of YouTube tutorials to send over to students. So I'll not just throw this question out to anybody who wants to chime in on it. Have you ever had significant problems helping students install? Go ahead, please, Saito Sensei.
Yeah, like I have same connection, not the college, like especially for the middle school and not the high school, but the Chromebook they receive from the school district. And I was so surprised, like why, like, this school district offers Japanese, but like why they don't have like Japanese font in there. So, and at that time, like I wanted to introduce to you, and I was quickly like, looking for this. I used always Google input tools because like the Chromebook, they use the Chrome browser, and this Google input tools works very well. It's the extension. It's not like installing anything. Like some parents, like, they don't like, the student having like the Chromebook, and they purchase the something different. And then like, like students say, no, my mom like said like I can't install anything, so I don't think I can install Japanese. Like I was like, okay, this is not like installing new font. It's just like, extension. So just like use this one, and if you stop taking Japanese, you can just delete it. So, and I think with the like the circumstance like that, like this one, like temporary works really good, and it's easy to install. So, if you are struggling, maybe you can try this one.
Much appreciated. And like I said, I'm lucky it has been quite some time since I've been in a situation like that. I'm hopeful that I won't run into that again, but thank you for that. Much appreciated. Anyone else thoughts on how to help students just overcome some of those tech issues or maybe are not able to access some of the content because it's blocked?
Can I say one more thing? Sorry about
Please do.
yeah, like I'm based in New York, and I don't know about the other states, but like the Quizlet, like it's banned in the New York. And so many apps after the COVID, like it's ban, 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 ban. So like, especially at the K-12 settings, and our like technology is very limited. So like I have to use, depending on the school district purchase or like school district allows, and also the New York States. So like I wish I can purchase so many things, but it's very limited. And like our school is Google, so Google doesn't have furigana. So like I really wish like, I can just use for that part for the Microsoft. But now it's the Canva comes, and Canva has the furigana function, and it's so easy. So like it's really depends on the project tasks and whatever like we need to do. Like, I try to use those tools. And also the New York State is starting, it's the bell to bell regulation. And I don't know like how many years this like regulation will last, but student has to like give their devices to the school or like in a locker from the bell to bell. So until like they leave the school. So like I don't know like, what's gonna happen, because like last year, like everybody was just like, doing the cell phone, like in class, out of the class, like during the lunch period. It was really like, this is not learning environment, good learning environment. So I guess like the K-12 is especially like, it's really depends on like what state decide, and then like, the technology wise and like, the apps, we have always limitation, and we have to figure out what's the best way for our teaching. So yeah, I just wanted to chime in there. Thank you.
Yes, lots of challenges that sometimes can come up in the K-12 world. Thank you for that. So this has been yet another afternoon of fantastic conversation.